So, Linda, job seekers send their resume, as you mentioned earlier. Recruiters will check them out, check them on LinkedIn. Oh, I like this person. I want to book an interview, either the first interview or in person or in Zoom. From a job seeker perspective, how should they be prepared for those interviews? And is there a major difference between a phone interview and in person or the second round interviews?
When it comes to preparing for interviews, I would say there's a little bit of a difference between, let's say the first round interview versus the second round interview because of the person that you're going to be talking to. So the first round is usually with a recruiter. The second round is then with the actual hiring manager. But the truth is, I don't think that it really needs to change your preparation. I think from the get-go, you should be highly prepared, which means know your stories,
Yes.
know how you fit for the position. So basically, you're looking at the job description, you're looking at the keywords, and then from each set of keywords, you're asking yourself, what is my experience related to this? What
Yes.
is the story or example I have that is related to this? And you're going to develop your story. You're going to remember your story. And then when the interview comes, you're going to have a whole chest of 10, 15, 20 stories in the back of your mind that
Yes.
they can ask any question. And you just pull one story down, you make it
Mhm.
work in the moment. That's how you sound natural in the
Yes.
interviews. A lot of people they try to memorize the question and the answer.
Mhm.
And what happens when they ask you a question that you didn't have an answer for? You're never going to have a perfect answer. You're
Yes.
going to have stories. You
Yeah.
take the stories, you share the stories. That's the approach.
And do you have any question that job seekers should ask at the end? Is there any specific tips you give to your clients that ask this question? Again, it all depends on the job, on the client, but what should they ask at the end?
I think it's good to ask questions. You don't have to ask a whole lot of questions. One thing to keep in mind is you don't want to sound like you're interviewing the interviewer, right? Because
Mhm.
then they're going to feel as though like the tables have turned and now there's like a bit of a power play going on, like you're trying to interview them. I've seen people obviously you want to do your due diligence, but if you start probing and asking too many questions, then it can make you less attractive as a candidate, unfortunately, just
Yeah.
because they're thinking, well, why is she asking or he's asking so many questions? So the questions that I say are safe but good questions to ask that will give you a clue as to what you need is to ask, what is the biggest priority that you have on your plate right now or the team has on their plate right now that I would be able to get started on right away if I was to join in the first 30 to 60 days? What would I be working on? That's clear of mind usually for them. What they know what you would be working on. They have an idea of what project they want you to work on. Another good question I would say is asking them, I know that this job, based on the description, has said that you are looking for ABC qualities, but in your opinion, what would you say is another key quality that it hasn't yet been mentioned on the job description or you haven't mentioned today that would be vital for to be successful in this role? And then what happens is they'll say, well, actually, we are really looking for someone who's good at working with difficult people. Or, I mean, they might say
Yeah.
something that wouldn't be written out on a job description, but because you now have that knowledge of what they've just said, that you can take forward into the next round interview if
Yes.
there's another round and say, one of the things that I'm really good at is working with different personalities and that sort of thing. And then you can share.
Yeah, those are great tips. Thank you, Linda. Again, for the audience, if you have any other opinion or ideas about interview preparation, please leave them below and tune in next time for another great question with Linda.